Ghost of Yotei before you buy. Now, typically I don't tend to go through the reviews of games, but this game is like every time I go on the internet, it's either 10 out of 10. This game's better than Tsushima in every way, or it's hey, this game's woke because it's got a woman, right? And people don't talk about this game in a critical way. And it makes me mad. It does. It makes me mad. Because I played this game and I've got some things I need to talk about. I want to see if this guy, Gamer Ranks, I like this guy a lot, right? I want to see if he's critical about it.
And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Ghost of Yotei. This is the follow-up to Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima, which was a pretty kick-ass game. True. You might not call it a sequel because here
it's
like
300 years after, I believe.
New adventure. It's in a different part of Japan, in a different time period, and a new main character.
Now, guys, this is the first. I don't think it's a critique, but it's a bit lame. So, Yotei is set in a more cliche time period. So it's set, I believe it's called the Edo period, just after the Sengoku era. This is very cliche. Like every time there is something told about Japan, it's always the Sengoku era around the time of Oda Nobunaga, or it's just after during the Edo era, right? Tsushima had a more rare setting. Like outside of Tsushima, I cannot think of a single time to where a story in Japan was told during the time of the Mongolian invasion on Japan. I believe it was in like the 1200s, and it was either the 12 or the 1300s. But that's like it doesn't, it's rarer, and because it's more rare, it's cooler. But that could be a hot take, I don't know.
But it very much is the continuation of the gameplay ideas of Ghost of Tsushima.
It's too close, in my opinion.
I'll say that right off the jump. This is a bigger, meaner sequel. More to do, more cool stuff, more action, more world, more story. But it's not quite the smack in the face, holy cow, that the original Tsushima was.
True,
it doesn't quite hit as hard the second time around. If you were looking for a complete revolution, a complete overhaul, you don't really get that here. It's more Ghost of Tsushima, but not in a bad way. Don't get me twisted. When I say more...
I don't agree with this. I think a game that comes after a game, right? Like, Yotei came out, 5 years after Tsushima? This should have been a better game in every way. It just should have. But it's not. At best, it's about the same in terms of the combat, at least, right? Because inside Tsushima, it makes sense. Like, Jin, as a character, he makes sense, like, across the board. Like, so inside this, right, the stances have been changed to, like, a sword, a spear, dual swords, a kama, etc., right? And it turns her into an arsenal. But inside Tsushima, you had just stances for your sword. So it came across as he knows how to use a sword. He's a professional using a sword, right? Like, it's just cooler to me. And this game should have been at least both, right? Like, at least stances and also an arsenal. But it was just an arsenal to where you press the same buttons. And it's just kind of lame.
I mean, a lot more is put in here. And if you just wanted more, you might dig this, because I certainly have been. And the usual housekeeping, just so you know, I've been playing a review copy, and this footage was captured running on a PS5 Pro, and it is completely spoiler-free. I showed some of the region biomes, but some of that discovery is half the fun, so I tried to keep it limited, and all the cutscenes are very early or small side stuff. Yotei takes place in the northern region of Japan, Ezo. You play as Atsu, a woman out for revenge after her family was murdered when she was a child by a group of...
1 minute.
Murderous dudes called the Yotei 6.
Why does this sound familiar? Oh, that's right. Assassin's Creed Shadows. The girl character is seeking to kill a group of people who killed her. I don't think it was her father, but it was technically her father, right? It's the same story. Like, again, it's cliche. Like, I'm kind of tired of the an eye for an eye trope. I really am.
Each one unique and identifiable and typical, kind of predictable video game boss fashion. Yeah. Now you then set out as adult Atsu to murder all these guys. She's out for revenge and she's a brute. She's not a samurai like Jin Sakai, concerned with honor and like the ways of the culture and, you know, the balance. She's just a mercenary, so she fights a bit different. She uses different weapons and different gadgets, and even interacts with the world and people differently. Now, both protagonists are considered ghosts by their world, but where Jin Sakai, to me, was kind of like a Batman, here, Atsu is a bit more like a Boba Fett. A more anonymous, shrewd...
Yeah, kind of the one from the Boba Fett TV series instead of the one from the OG Star Wars. You know, the one which isn't as cool.
Bounty hunter focused on only the mission, but you know, they'll occasionally surprise you. I'm talking, like, obviously people think Boba Fett sucks after Return of the Jedi when he instantly dies. I'm not talking about that. Maybe not the best comparison, but I'm rolling with it. Look, structurally, the game is different from the last game, and it's probably one of the bigger departures. So Yotei is extremely non-linear, and it gives you all these Yotei 6 targets that you can at least kind of pursue in whatever order you want. You're going to get clues as you progress, and you can kind of choose which clues.
Guys, I will say, to the credit of this game, probably the only objective upgrade is across the board. I do think the bosses are better, like across the board, because inside Tsushima, every time you cleared out a camp, it was the same boss. I'm a guy in golden armor with a curved sword and a small shield. Every fucking time. And it became kind of tedious and lame. So, to the credit of this game, I do think the bosses overall are better.
And which information to pursue. And it happens in some pretty interesting and organic ways. It doesn't really feel like it's a video game just blasting stuff in your face and pointing you in the next direction. It's kind of more slow, like information gathering as you progress through these lands. Now, as a storytelling experiment, it is really nice to see Sucker Punch's good storytelling chops work well here. Even if the game is filled with like non-linear story progression and an endless amount of open world distractions, even more so this time, the game still manages to like do a great job staying focused on the core mission. It's hard for me to explain how, but you just never lose sight of what the overall plot is. The last game did that well.
Well, yeah, because the plot is basic. I need to get revenge on the people who killed my parents. Well, yeah, it's kind of... Well, yeah. It's kind of hard to lose that concept because it's basic and it's overused. But it doesn't, just because it's easy to remember, it doesn't mean it's good. These are two different things.
All through, really thoughtful side quests and activities design. And that's even more the case here. And you can tell it's trickier because there's a lot more freedom with like how things progress. Plus, I was pretty skeptical of the Yotei 6 thing because I feel like the here are all the bosses, go out and kill them. They're all weird and they all have their own thing. That's been done like to death at this point in video games, but they managed to make it feel different and interesting. It's not
disagree.
half-assed, and it really picks up after quite a few hours. Some of it is predictable, which might bum some folks out, but the presentation and performances, I think, really elevated it. There's a lot more action and a lot of cool big action set pieces. And even better than last time, the game does a good job of blending what's a side quest and what's a real main quest. Because there's a lot of variety, and even some of the smaller activities, it all just feels handcrafted. Unfortunately, there is still just like a lot of the same following foxes and following birds, which disappointingly feels like a lot like more of the same. But then on the flip side, at least I'll say,
all right, to talk about the story, right? In Yotei, it's like across the board, it's I'm going to kill the people who killed my parents, right? And it kind of stays to that. But Tsushima is a lot more complex, right? Because the entire story is Jin kind of torn between saving the people of Tsushima and his honor. Like, he's constantly torn. Which side do I choose? And then he chooses the side of, I'm going to save this land. And then, spoiler, if you haven't played Tsushima, you get to the end and it's emotional, right? Because he finally has to face the consequences of choosing to save the people over his honor. And like the cutscene between him and his uncle, it's so good. Like, it feels there's heart to the game, right? Like, pure competency, pure understanding of the audience. This game doesn't have that. The ending was cliche. The person at the end, the villain, he doesn't even explain properly why did you do these things. Like, it barely explains it. You kind of have to go like and do a bunch of bullshit to get like some kind of ideas on why he did it, but it isn't told properly. It's just lame. But the bad guy in Tsushima, he's just an asshole who's told, you're going to take Tsushima. All right, I'm going to take it. Like, it's just, everything in Tsushima fits better. The characters are more... I understand all the characters in Tsushima. The bad guys, Jin, his uncle. But I just don't care about Atsu. Like, I just don't give a fuck, you know?
There are some stronger side quests here. Good stuff. Many of which I completed, and I found myself going, damn, I could have just walked past that. Combat this time around builds off of what came before it. It's still the same type of combat. You know, it's not the most difficult combat in the world, but it can be really fun and satisfying. You know, the perfect parry clangs, man, those feel so damn good and badass to pull off still. Doing face-offs and duels and chopping dudes' arms off still doesn't get old. Katana weapon stances are out here. That's it. And that
that's
really
worse
threw
in my
me
opinion,
off, to be honest. But it's replaced with different weapons. So more moves, more situational combat awareness is kind of needed, where you choose a weapon stance for a certain type of enemy with a certain type of weapon. Now you choose an entirely different weapon type against an enemy's weapon type. And then,
well, that's the thing, though. It isn't. It's the same thing, right? It's like, if you switch between the spear and the sword, yes, like, the spear, it tends to have like pokes, but the concept is the same. To where I just don't understand the purpose of switching from stances to different armaments, but the core and the core idea is the same.
They all feel fairly different. Katana, dual katana, odachi, spear.
It
makes for some good fun, especially because they all have their own nuances and their own spirit abilities and their own skill trees. What I enjoyed even more about this was facing off against enemies that would switch their weapons on the fly, meaning you do the same to counteract them, and kind of like a game of weapon, rock, paper, scissors. It's good stuff. It's still brutal. It's still bloody. And like I said, it's not the most difficult combat system in the world, but there is a good, deep level of mastery to it. And when you're really locked into it, it can feel great. Ranged weapons are still here with tweaked arrow types as well as early firearms. Also some really cool, useful throwables like fire bombs that, like, while similar to last time, still managed to feel really different here. And a nice burst of dirt to distract enemies mid-fight. A couple other things that really work well. Stealth, once again, doesn't really feel great at the start. You know, it's pretty simple stuff. But like last time, it gets much stronger as the game progresses and you get better tools. Sometimes, depending on how you play, though, you could end up going a long time without some useful stuff. So just keep that in mind. Really look around. Really evaluate where you pursue things. You also get access to a cool wolf, like more and more over time. It kind of starts as a random occurrence, and
so speaking about the combat as well, am I the only person who fucking hates the skill to where she goes raw, and like all of the guys are like, "Don't hurt me," right? I find that lame. Like, the same thing it was in Tsushima, but in Tsushima, you had to earn it, like, properly earn it. Like, I've not played it in, like, 2 years, but to my understanding, that you had to, that kind of built on your character development over, like, playing the game and how you killed enemies. In this game, you just start with it. I find it lame. How, like, you got 12 soldiers, all, you know, like, trained for years to fight, and this girl just goes, "Do the raw," and they're like, "Oh, no." It's just, I don't know.
It can be earned as a new game mechanic through exploring and pursuing side objectives. And the wolf is really awesome in a fight. It can save you as a kind of last stand mechanic. It can be summoned, and it has its own dedicated skill tree. And everything does, really. Armor and cosmetic progression is the same as the last game. There's a lot of ways to look in this game, like from a Ronin badass to a brute warrior to like a stealth person, like all that is here. And then, of course, there's still a photo mode to soak that all in too. You can camp anywhere and craft throwables and ammo. You can cook food for some buffs. And what I do like is that, like, the bow person, the armor person, and a map person for certain things, like, they can actually come to you occasionally when you camp, and you can sort out your business then and there. It's not as much of a game changer as they kind of hyped it to be, but it is a nice touch, and the game just has a lot of those. Like Tsushima, it's just a kind of chill, contemplative game at times, with side objectives like the bird and fox stuff I mentioned earlier, but also the hot springs return and engaging in art. Haikus are out. But now Atsu paints landscape paintings through these chill little mini games, and also she can play her shamisen as opposed to a flute, and it's a little bit more involved. Tsushima touched upon the mythical elements, the fantastical stuff here and there, and Yotei continues that and does a bit more in some interesting ways I'm not going to spoil. The world feels significantly bigger this time around, though. The sense of scale and variety seems like a massive upgrade. Grasslands and fields are vast. Mountains are huge. And it helps just feel like a massively bigger world that you slowly piece together.
Guys, it could be a hot take here. And, you know, you're probably going to say, incel, right? I don't like how you play as a girl in this game. And here's the reason for it, right? If you choose a girl in Dark Souls, who cares? Like, the entire premise of the game is complete fiction, and the game overall doesn't really have a sense of common sense, right? It's just Dark Souls. Kill the boss with big stupid hammers, go for it. But this game, this game's anchored to a historical event, right? Like, this entire area of Ezu is, right, at this time was overrun by samurai and ronin, right? And she's commonly referred to as like a ronin, but she's a woman. If you understand the history of Japan, you couldn't be a ronin if you were a woman, because a ronin was a samurai who was that doesn't have a lord anymore to serve, either through death, disgrace, or just left. But she's kind of, I believe they're called the Onimushas, but she can't be that either because she's a peasant. She isn't a noble. Like, the entire, like, just storyline premise and playing as a girl, a peasant, it just doesn't make sense when you pile it on top of the anchoring of the story and the setting of the game. But Tsushima made sense because Jin, he was a noble. His uncle is a lord. His father, a lord who died. I believe he was trained from, like, what, 6 years old to take over the Sakai clan. Like, everything about Jin made sense. This game is just like, it doesn't make sense, and it's partially because you play as a girl. But here's the thing, even if you played as a guy, the story in this game is still shitty because of, like, the character development, the main story. It's just all arsehole.
Following the wind to the next thing, but also getting distracted and just going on vibes. So that leads me to that. The game is gorgeous. The HDR implementation is great. The color palette is insane. And the foliage and atmospheric effects, they really are worth seeing in real time. Like, I'm not trying to be like a shill hype man or anything, but this game, like, mainly environmental more than anything, looks incredible. It has high frame rate, high resolution, and ray tracing features or options, and it can do the ray tracing with 60 FPS on PS5 Pro. But with performance on base PS5, it also seems to run well. My only issues that I encountered overall in many, many hours was a glitch where my horse wouldn't spawn, which was fixed upon restart and only happened once. A little bit of clipping with clothing and stuff like that. Like, some of the armor sets have little clipping issues with a cape or a sword poking through. And the occasional, like, lighting flickering glitch that was kind of annoying. Very sparingly, though. Otherwise, pretty smooth sailing from my naked eye, at least. Also, the music is top tier. I actually think it might have topped the last game. The score, from like big to small and ambient exploration music, like all of it is really fantastic.
I kind of hope he talks on the story a bit more.
You're stalling!
Let's test your speed.
I've fought worse than you.
It can't be!
So it's an additive sequel. Like I said, it's Ghost of Tsushima, but way, way more packed on top of it. It's an upgrade, but there's some subjectivity to that. You might like the switch to multiple weapons, or you might miss the sole focus on the katana. You might like Atsu, or you might...
Again, switching between all of the weapons, it could have been cool if it was done properly, right? I'm trying to think of a game that was done properly. Great example. I've just thought of one. this game here. Now, I would tell you the name of it, but I've got to stutter if you couldn't tell. This word is a hard word. I'm not going to say it. But this game, if you're trying to make a character who's an Arsenal, this game is the best at doing it, in my opinion, because you've got stances and you've got choice. And you got your builds around each stance and each other weapons as well. Ghosts of Yotei, in my opinion, could have went closer to this feel in terms of switching the weapons. If it did, then I would agree that the combat is better. But because it was just a quick change from stances to choice, but the choices are just the stances anyway, I don't think it was an upgrade. I think it was kind of the same. Because the game came out after Tsushima, it didn't improve on it at all. So I would take points away from the game because of that.
Sorely miss Jin Sakai. You might have wanted more 100%. Ghost gameplay,
he was way
more
cooler.
of that, or maybe you wanted a bigger step forward, a real evolution.
Right, guys. To those of you who disagree, right, on my opinion of this game, I've got just one question for you, right? Can you think of one part of the story in Yotei as gripping as the ending to Tsushima, where you got Jin, his uncle, and it's like, you have no honor, and you're a slave to it, bro. Guys, I'm just gonna show it. I think it's too cool. 1 minute.
The Shogun has declared you a traitor. He ordered you to kill me. The ghost was an outlaw.
Look, emotion.
He taught our people to defy their leaders, to defend themselves. With poison, a gift you gave to our enemy. I had to stop you from throwing away our people's lives. You have no honor. And you are a slave to it.
Bro, name one fucking just one instance inside Ghosts of Yotei that had that impact. One. I can't think of one.
And departure, kind of like how they did with the main character, at least here. Either way, it's going to be down to like what you want. What can I say for me personally? I was a bit skeptical, but I very quickly became heavily addicted to the game. Just like I was hooked on Ghost of Tsushima, and that's what I was hoping for. Much like that game, Yotei gets better the more time you put into it. The gameplay gets better and more empowering, and the story gets more dramatic. And there are some incredible performances here. The game, once again, can pull off effective storytelling, great direction, and moments that make you actually, I don't know, feel something, feel some emotion.
But I don't care about
Did I love the story
at all.
as much as the first game?
Fuck
Not
no.
quite. It's a matter of taste. It's up to you, but it didn't top it for me personally. But it is still a hell of a lot of fun.
The only taste is, do you prefer to eat cow shit or chocolate cake? Well, I prefer chocolate cake over cow shit, but if you prefer cow shit, go for it.
Fun. Pretty simple video, honestly.
That's the taste in the story between the two games.
Hey, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours. There are a lot of opinions about this one already, so let me know what you're thinking, but also let me know what you think about the original Ghost of Tsushima. I enjoyed it. I thought it was decent, but like towards the later half of the game when it really picked up, that's when I truly fell in love. And then 100%ing it, that's when I realized it was like... If
the story in Tsushima wasn't like crazy good, the game would have been like, it's an alright game. Yeah, I'll play it again, I think. But the story is why I'm going to play it again. 100%.
One of my favorite games. Let me know if you feel the same about the original. Let me know if you're looking forward to playing this new one. Either way, hit us up. And if you like this video and maybe it helped you out, maybe informed you at all, clicking the like button's all you got to do. It really helps us out and we appreciate it. If you're new, consider subscribing because we put out videos every single day, man. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.
Guys, do any of you agree on this? That there's a big problem with character writing where people don't know how to write a female character. Like, they just don't know how to do it. Every time they write a man and they just slap on a girl's face. I don't like that. Like, if you're going to make a game such as this and you play as a girl, you have to make her different to a guy. Because, I'm sorry, a girl cannot take on a guy in hand-to-hand combat and win, like, 85% of the time, especially if there's two. It just won't happen. Especially a fucking peasant born going against a general of these samurais. Like, it's just like, it makes no sense. Like, all right, this is going to sound just a tiny bit incel-like, sure. But you have to make a girl character manipulative. You, like, in some capacity. You have to make them fight dirty, right? A great example is the pocket sand in this game, right? Like, that's dirty fighting. That should have been the core of the gameplay. Like, just, you fight dirty to win because you're a girl. But devs just don't know how to write a female character. They don't know how to do it. And it does translate into this game as well. I think the character of Atsu is poorly written. From the premise of the story to the combat scenarios to her personality. You get to the end of the game and it's kind of like her brother is killed. Everybody who's beaten the game, you knew that's what was going to happen. It was cliche and very obvious. And then she takes care of the child, but she doesn't express like emotion. And the entire story is her, I'm going to get revenge, but maybe there's a different way. But I'm going to get revenge again. Oh, but there could be a different way. And then her brother dies, and she doesn't change. Like, there is no emotion in this character. It's just a shitty character. But perhaps that is just a hot take. Now, I thought I had to do this. I did. I think there is too much on, especially on Twitter, either 10 out of 10 or woke garbage. I had to talk about it. To like, I just had to, man.